Hi there! In this video, we are going to go through how to set up a continuous integration pipeline using Circle CI to deploy our application to AWS. In this case, we are using AWS S3, and we are going to deploy a simple React application over GitHub to our S3 bucket. And we're going to statically host our application there so that we can access it from the web. So this is basically our application, nothing special, but we're going to go through the walkthrough how to set this up using Circle CI. So let's start. First of all, I have prepared a simple app here, and I have a git ignore file. So we just want to ignore the node modules here. And it is a pretty simple application. We have just this text here. I'm an example app running in the cloud. So that's basically everything. Now we need to set up our environment. First of all, I have created a GitHub repository. So that's really straightforward. I'm not going to go through how to create a GitHub repository here. You can pretty much do that by yourself. So everything you need to do is go to GitHub and register for there and just create a new repository. And you don't need to use GitHub. You can use pretty much whatever you want. So the next step is to go to Circle CI and go to your application here and search for projects. So first of all, you will be asked to connect your Circle CI account to your GitHub or GitLab or whatever you're using. And then it will import all the repositories that you have. After you have done that, you can just click on set up a project and it will automatically connect your project. So it will look like this here. I have already run a few tests here while creating this video. So you won't have all those failed and successes, but that's basically what you will be able to see. So next thing is we are also going to need AWS. So in this case, I'm using S3, and you can just create a bucket. So you just normally go through all of this and don't forget to uncheck this here. So you have to uncheck this here and just click create a bucket. You can use a name, whatever you would like. So in this case, I have created the bucket CI/CD example. One more thing you need to do is under permissions. So first of all, you have disabled all of this here, and then you need to add a bucket policy. So this is the bucket policy you need to add. It's version, and then you add a statement, and here you need to add the name of your bucket. So in this case, the name of my bucket is CI/CD example, and so that's what you want to have here. So CI/CD example / star, so that everything under this bucket is publicly available. So you could of course use a CloudFront distribution in front of this, but we want to keep this as simple as possible. So I have already my React application here. So I'm going to delete the React application. You have to type permanently delete and just click delete objects. So now it's empty and we can't access our application anymore. So far so good. Now we need to set up some type of access to AWS. So when you go to your project here, under project settings and under environment variables, we have here environment variables. So AWS access key ID, AWS region, and AWS access secret access key. We could of course hard code this into our application, but that would be a really bad approach. So what you need to do is go to AWS EIM, go to users, and just add a new user and just type in the username. So let's go with example. We want to give it only programmatic access. Go to policies and go to S3 full access. So we are going to give it S3 full access. We could reduce this, but it's really not that tragic if you just give it S3 full access. Then review and then just create the user. I'm going to cancel this one since I already have a user. But in this case, when you create the user, you will have your AWS access key ID and a secret access key. And then just paste in the values here. Just go add environment variable, give the name here and paste in the value. And also a region. I'm using here EU, I think EU West in this case, 1. So you can specify whatever region you would like, but just keep in mind that probably if you want to delete the bucket at some point, that you know which region it is. So after we have set up everything, we can initialize our project. So as you can see, I have my application here and the git ignore file. So the application is just a normal React application. You could use whatever you would like. You could just basically use an index HTML file. So, but in this case, we want to use React since we want to make it a bit more complex to see how all of that works together, because we need to build actually all the files from our source code. So here I'm in my editor. So what we want to do is first create a Circle CI folder. In that Circle CI folder, we want to have a config.yaml file. So config.yaml. And this is how Circle CI works. When we push this to GitHub, Circle CI is always checking. So if you remember here, when we go back to our dashboard, our project, you can see that Circle CI keeps a track of all our repositories in our GitHub account. And if something changes there, Circle CI is going to pull all of that and search for the folder Circle CI. And it's going to find a config file in which we are going to specify what exactly we want to happen. Okay. I hope this is clear and you understand how this workflow and process works. So what we do is initialize a GitHub repository here with git init. I already have a GitHub repository, but that's what you would like to do. And then we would git add remote. We would add our remote. Then we would do git add our code. Then we would commit it and push it. And when we push it to our master branch, then Circle CI is going to take all of this and follow the instructions in our YAML file. Of course, this is a bad approach if you directly push to master. You should create feature branches and create pull requests or merge them into the master branch. But to make it more simple, I'm just going to use the master branch right away. So let's go to our config file. So we want to specify jobs. And in that job, we can name the jobs whatever we would like. So let's call our job build and deploy. So we want to build it and deploy it. We could call this whatever we would like. Now we need to specify a machine in which this is going to run. So we could just specify machine true and it would use some default machine from Circle CI. Or we could also specify a certain image. In this case, I'm going to specify Ubuntu 2004 20. So I mean the Ubuntu version 20.4, which is 2020.10.1. So this is just a version I'm using here because I think some packages inside our Node.js, inside our React application need that version. So it doesn't have to be that version. It could be just also a version from, I think, 2017 and upwards, but I'm going to use the one from 2020. So now we can specify steps. And first of all, what we want to do is check out our code. So we want to check out our master branch in here. Then we want to run some commands. So for that, we're going to use run. And if we use run, we can specify a name for that command and we can specify our commands. So we're going to specify all the commands that we need here. And we can name this like installing AWS CLI because we are going to install the AWS CLI here. I'm going to explain you what exactly I mean by that. So now we can specify normal commands here, like normal CLI commands we would use in our console. So first of all, we want to do sudo apt get update. So we want to pull updates to our current version. Then we want to install Python 3 because we need the AWS CLI to work with it. So what happens? Circle CI is going to create an image here, which is going to be Ubuntu. And that image is just like a normal Ubuntu machine, like if you just use the normal Ubuntu PC. And in there, we can give it commands. We can give it normal CLI commands. What we would do if we were going to push this locally to S3, we would install the AWS CLI. So we would install the CLI in our Ubuntu image. And then we would use that CLI to push certain files to AWS S3. So what we need to do here locally is the same. We need to install our AWS CLI and push those files to S3. For that, we need to use Python. So the AWS CLI uses Python. So we are going to install Python 3 pip. Then we are going to use pip3 install AWS EB CLI. And we are also going to use upgrade. So if it already is on there, you're just going to upgrade the version. Then we are going to run a new command. In that command, first of all, like remember, we are right now in our project, but we are not inside the app application. So what we need to do is go to our app here. Then we need to run npm install to get our node modules. And then we need to run npm run build. So those are all the steps from our package.json file here. So if you wanted to start our application, we would tell it npm run start, or if you wanted to build it, we would run npm run build. So, and we have also used this in one line because when we have a new run here, Circle CI is going to start a new process. But in this case, everything will be done in one process, and we want to have it done in one process. We could have used multiple as well, but I think in this case we can squash it in one line. And then we want to use the AWS CLI to sync our app.build folder, because everything will be in our build folder, to our S3 bucket. So it's going to be the name of our bucket. It's going to be CI CD example. And this is basically it. This is going to link our data. So it's going to send our data to AWS. And under the hood, the environment variables that we are using are going to be used by the AWS CLI. So the environment variables would just be available through this and the name of our environment variable. Okay, great. Those are all the steps we want to do. Now we need to specify workflow, so workflows. We need to specify the version. I think the newest version right now is 2. And now we need to give it again a name. So execute bulk, like everything is in there. So I'm going to call it execute bulk. You can call this whatever you want. And then we need to specify jobs. And we now specify a list of our jobs. But we have only this job, so we're going to run it here. We could have also created multiple jobs, like one for building and one for deploying. And you need to take into consideration that those jobs are not going to wait one for each other. So this is like a really, really strong feature request for Circle CI to build this in, to make it easier for us to wait for a certain job to finish before we can start another one. So this should basically be everything. I think this should be all right now. So what we can do now is commit our code and see if it's going to work. So I'm going to run git add com. I'm going to run git commit test commit, and I'm going to push this. So git push, and this should be pushed to our master branch. So let's go back to our repository here. And 18 seconds ago, we got the test commit here. This means that when we go to our project here, we should see a new build here. And if the build finishes successfully, we should be able to see those files here in our bucket, and our application should be deployed. After the build finishes, you should hopefully see something like this, like spinning up the environment, checking out the code, installing the AWS CLI. And remember, this is the name that we gave it, installing AWS CLI. So it's pretty much always a good idea to give names to your run commands. And here we are syncing our stuff. So when we go to the S3 console, hopefully on the refresh, we should be able to see our files there. Okay, so our files are here. So when we go to properties and go up here, we can see I'm an example app running in the cloud. Great. So this was an entire process of how to deploy our stuff in a continuous integration way. So you can like play with this, you can use Docker images, deploy it to certain servers, but it basically boils down to the same thing. Like you have certain running commands, you have a repository, you have some continuous integration tool, in this case we use Circle CI, and you have some cloud provider where you are deploying this stuff. It doesn't need to be a cloud provider, but in most cases you're going to use something like AWS or Google Cloud. So I hope this helped you and you had a lot of fun following this through. So if you have any questions, leave comments down below. If you want to learn more or contact me personally, go to noveltechmedia.com. The link is in the description and you're also going to be able to see it right in this video. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.